Hi, and welcome to the Career Planning Microgroup that's affiliated with the Youth and Adult Pathways. This particular webinar is entitled Supporting Career Pathways Across Educational Settings, and I'm Judy Shanley, who is serving as the facilitator for this microgroup. We're really happy that you've decided to listen to this webinar. Let me tell you a little about myself before we get into the content of the webinar. As I said, I'm Judy Shanley, and I work at Easter Seals in Chicago at the national office. I'll be serving as the virtual community facilitator for the next month for our community, our online community of practice. And in that role, I'm going to be a facilitator, so I'll be sharing resources and information with you. I'm going to be a resource linker. I'll help connect you with resources across national organizations and local organizations, and also help connect you with people. I'm also going to be a supporter and a cheerleader, and serve as a catalyst for hopefully really great information sharing about career planning, career development throughout the month. A little about myself. I have 30 years of experience in disability-related fields. I was a vocational rehabilitation counselor for a number of years. I worked at a research organization in Washington, D.C., and most recently, before coming to Easter Seals, I was at the US Dept of Education Office of Special Education Program. I think it's really important in online communities to get to know each other a little bit as we're sharing information, and I hope that over the next month that we can do that as a community. Let me tell you a little about my passions. I was trained in my doctoral leadership work in youth transition, so I've always been interested in the transition of students with disabilities, particularly to post-school settings, and post-school settings meaning higher education, community colleges, employment, and involvement in the community. And I've always been involved in topics that relate to moving students to post-school settings. Currently, I work at Easter Seals, and I work on a number of federal projects supported by the Federal Transit Administration around transportation. We know that transportation is often a barrier and a challenge toward students moving into post-secondary education and employment settings, and the work that we focus on at Easter Seals focuses on making sure that students have the knowledge and skills to use transportation. I'm also very interested in data. We have to be using valid and reliable empirical evidence to make decisions about what kinds of strategies we're using, what kinds of interventions we're using, and then we use data to measure our success. In a time when budgets are decreasing and our time is a scarce commodity, it's really important to make decisions based upon objective data. Also very interested in high-quality programs. I love opportunities to learn from each other, and if there's a particular program going on in one community, I welcome the opportunity to be able to share that information with another site who may be interested in using comparable kinds of information. You probably know that this particular microgroup or online community related to career development is part of a series of microgroups or communities that have been under the auspices of the Youth and Adult Pathways Project, affiliated with the Office of Vocational and Adult Education. I hope you've had an opportunity to participate in some of the forums that have been offered in November and December related to building strategic partnerships and designing contextualized instruction. Both of those topics are very much related to the topic of career development. And as you can see by the topics that will be happening in February and March, April and May, all of these topics are very much interrelated. And it's important to access resources that may have preceded this particular forum, which will be held in January, as well as use the information that you learn during the month of January to build on the work that will be happening in the months to come. I hope that you participating in the varied activities that we here have on the microgroup will learn about career planning at multiple levels. I'm a firm believer in career planning starting as early as possible. In fact, at one point in my career, I developed a information brief related to early career development and awareness for students in elementary schools. I think it's never too early to think about post-school outcomes. I also hope that by your participation, you'll understand how these strategies can be integrated across settings. I think sometimes we're siloed in our work, and elementary and middle school and high school educators don't work as collaboratively as maybe they could. And then certainly as students leave a high school setting and move to a post-school education setting, whether it be a 2- or 4-year or a career and technical education setting, that there's opportunities for integration of both the academic content as well as content related to career planning. And I hope that you'll learn information about how to make this integration possible as we move through some of the topics we'll be discussing during the month. I know that in Debbie's microgroup that focused on building strategic partnerships, she shared lots of terrific resources about how to connect high school and post-secondary education. And I hope you'll see the same kinds of opportunities as we learn about career development and career planning across settings. One of the important outcomes that I hope the community will yield is you'll develop and acquire tools and resources. And I hope you'll be inspired as you obtain these resources, as you think about how these resources and tools can be used in your own setting. As a community, we'll work together and figure out which resources may be best for your setting and how you can customize those resources. Some additional outcomes and opportunities that I hope that you'll realize as a result of your participation in this microgroup is, first, this webinar that I'm talking to today is really intended to be a very broad overview of the topic of career planning and career development. Just a touch on big issues and big topics. It'll serve as kind of a preview of some of the topics that we'll be addressing during the month. Second, I hope that you'll learn about some particular programs and strategies that I've gleaned through the literature and through research and by learning and talking with program developers at other institutions. But I hope that you'll learn about these other programs and consider perhaps how they can be applied in your own setting. Because my background in part is working with students with disabilities, one of the things we're going to be sharing is strategies and tools for specifically working with students with disabilities. We have invited national expert on individualized learning plans, Curtis Richards from the Institute for Educational Leadership, to talk to us about individualized learning plans and how personal career planning, and that actually applies to students with and without disabilities, can be really useful as a tool to engage students in their own career development, as a tool for educators also in their planning. I also hope that you'll participate in our many forums. We're going to be having live events. We'll have the Curtis Richards webinar January 21st. I hope to have additional conference calls with some experts in the field, as well as students themselves, to talk about how career planning and how career development has focused and has strengthened their ability to be successful after high school. So please participate in our live and our real-time forums, as well as participating in some of the discussion forums that will happen during the month. I found this quote through an organization called American Progress, and I think it really resonates with the work that we do. And it reads, "Clearly, the great challenge facing higher education today is to contain costs while at the same time improving outcomes. In short, to increase productivity? Well, our productivity as educators, as those interested in facilitating students' outcomes, really depends upon student outcomes and the success of our students as they leave our settings. So it's important that we implement strategies in a cost-effective way that best address those post-school outcomes. And career development, if we're able to integrate it in academic content and other students' experiences that students have, both in high school and post-secondary education settings, is a way to address this challenge, not only to contain costs, but we're increasing productivity because we're improving outcomes for the students that we serve. Some data regarding kind of the where we are now in terms of student knowledge and skills, and this comes from Jobs for the Future. And Jobs for the Future has indicated that there's a national necessity, really, to ensure that students have the knowledge and skills and training to be successful in the world of work and employment. And this quote reads, "Millions of adults need access to post-secondary education and training to advance their careers and support their families." The numbers are staggering. Over 26 million adults lack a high school degree. 93 million lack the basic literacy skills to succeed and advance in college and the workplace. 1.3 million young people drop out of high school every year. As educators, regardless of whether we're in a high school setting or an adult education setting, a 2-year, 4-year, or career and technical education program, I think these data are compelling to us. We need to ensure that our programs, the services, the strategies we're using to engage students, keep students in school, and prepare them for the jobs of the 21st century. Also, I encourage you to look further at Jobs for the Future as a resource. They produce really terrific data-related resources as well as tools that can be used in settings to address career development. So why is it important to implement career-related services? Well, number one, it provides a goal and direction for students. We know from data that comes out of high school, for students with disabilities in particular, this comes from the National Dropout Prevention Center, that one of the key indicators of students staying in school is motivation. Students have to be passionate and have to be interested in the content that's being shared. And if career development and career-related services include goals and direction for students, that's going to be a motivator for that student to stay in school. Second, it's important to implement career-related services because these services can serve as an evaluation marker for administrators. You could use these data, you could use the information, these indicators, career-related indicators, you can use these indicators as a way to ensure the content you're providing is aligned with student goals. And thirdly, having career-related services will enable program administrators and educators who are implementing career-related programs to measure the outcomes of their work. In the previous slide where we shared information about the importance of cost-effective and efficiency and productivity in the workplace, certainly having data related to where students go after they leave your education setting is an important indicator and evaluation measure of the services that you have in place. So I think for these three reasons, and probably many more that you can think of, and perhaps we can discuss this in the online forum, these are important characteristics or reasons why it's important to implement career-related services. When I think of career planning, think of career planning at multiple levels, and think about your own setting, think about your own state. Usually there are state policies and frameworks that guide career development that happens at the local level. For instance, related to the the individualized learning plan work, there are several states, and Dr. Richards will share that information with you, that have adopted statewide policies around career pathways. So think about the structures and the policies in place in your own state that contribute to the programs that you implement within your institution. Second, there are program-level strategies that are implemented in the context of the local setting. I'll be sharing some program-level strategies with you in a minute, but think about the characteristics of your own setting. Do those characteristics enable you to address career development? Are there opportunities for you to implement career development within the academic content that you may teach? Is there support and professional development for program-level strategies related to career planning? And then finally, student-focused career planning. We know that students need to be engaged and empowered to be part of a career planning process. They need to be decision makers. In special ed, there's an abundant amount of empirical evidence related to self-determination and students' involvement in their own career pathways. And I hope that by inviting students who have been the recipient of career planning services within high school and or adult education settings, that they'll be able to share with you the importance of their engagement in the process. So these are the three levels that career planning occurs, and the structures and policies at each of these levels serve as a catalyst for good career development services. So here are some promising state strategies, and I gleaned this information from the Joyce Foundation, Shifting Gears, and the URL will be on the next page. But think about your own settings. Do you have regional sector-based partnerships? Are there opportunities in your community to form, and at the state level, partnerships across educational sectors, labor sectors, transportation sectors? This first bullet reflects much of the work that was discussed in the Building Strategic Partnerships Microgroup that happened last month. Second, it's important for educators who are assisting to implement career development to think about how the career development relates to the economics and the labor needs in an area. If we're preparing students for jobs and careers that don't exist within the particular community, that's not an effective approach. So it's really important for educators, and whether that educator is in high school or post-secondary education setting, to think about the economic needs and the labor market needs of a community. Third, it's important to work with employers to expand opportunities for education. Invite employers into your programs. Let them offer guidance regarding the kinds of skills and the interest and the knowledge that employees need in their workplace. Ask them to review materials that you might develop related to career development. The next bullet talks about making the entry criteria, the kind of gateways to access to career pathway programs as easy, as accessible as possible. Look at the policies, look at the procedures that you have in place that enable students to access your programs. Are they arduous? Are they really needed? Whose interests are they serving? Are they serving the student's interests, the institutional interests? Are there other ways that these assessment and entry and exit criteria could be put in place that are not as difficult or don't serve as a challenge? Next, build partnerships across agencies. You know, I'm a big believer of crossing federal and community sectors and learning from each other. It goes back to what I previously said about us being in silos. So learn about what Department of Labor resources may be available in your community, what Corporation for National Community Service programs might exist. As someone who now works in the field of transportation, if transportation is a barrier for you, build connections, build relationships with transportation providers in your community. And then finally on this slide, adopt policies that facilitate the transfer of students and educational credit. We want to build pathways for students. We want students to career development and career pathway to be as seamless as possible. And so ensuring that students are going to get credit and be recognized for the work that they're doing in one setting, and that is able to be transferred or carried over to another setting is really, really critical. Some additional state strategies, and again, this is from the Joyce Foundation, really great report, and I have the URL on this slide. Streamlined curricula development and approval processes for post-secondary education and training. I have talked with many higher education faculty, both at 2- and 4-year institutions, and they've shared with me the cumbersome process that is in place within their institution to get new curriculum approved, to get new resources even in the class approved. Think about that. Is there any way that the process can be streamlined so that you can implement innovative and current curricula and resources for students? Second bullet on this slide indicates that there should be embedding support for career pathways and bridge programs into relevant workforce development, human services, and career and technical education programs. Again, this is the notion of crossing silos and bringing together diverse partners to really ensure that career content is embedded and integrated in the career pathway in the academic program for students. Third, ensure that employer-focused training programs have strong connections to state and local basic skills and post-secondary education programs. Again, inviting employers at multiple levels, at state level, at a community level, into the process to ensure that what their preparation programs address is in line with what you as an educator might address. And finally on this slide, improve standards for assessing whether prior on-the-job learning, certifications, and competencies count toward college credit. There's a big, big movement these days around competency-based education and experiential learning, and moving away from traditional Carnegie credit kinds of programming, and looking at the experience that students may have and thinking about how that translates into skill development and knowledge acquisition. And I know that there's colleges whose whole programs are competency-based education programs, so it may be worth looking at your program and the courses that you offer to see whether there's any opportunity to change any of those traditional kinds of classes to experiential learning classes. At the program level, there's several things that the literature has highlighted as being promising. Again, using portfolios as a way to include career-related information, individualized learning plans. Individualized learning plans are kind of a student roadmap. I'll be sharing many, many resources about this during the month, but it's a way for students to identify their career goals and seek experiences and seek opportunities for those goals to be addressed through a plan. The second bullet on this slide suggests that a promising program strategy is when career content can be integrated in learning content. And I know that in the link communities, there's been lots of discussion recently about Common Core standards. Common Core standards for grades for the elementary, middle, and high school level really represent an ideal opportunity to also address career-related information. If you look at the framework for Common Core standards, it's easy to identify opportunities where students can not only learn the content, the standards that are being addressed through the Common Core, but also to think about how that Common Core content addresses career goals and career pathways. Another promising strategy is the use of peer mentors, whether that individual is still in an academic and educational setting, or maybe someone from the community, an employer from the community, someone in a career that could come in and talk to a student about their career goals and career pathways. Contextualize and authentic learning. I've mentioned the empirical evidence that exists and comes out of special ed regarding contextualized learning, and I know that Lynn and the contextualized instruction microgroup discussion that we've had have offered some really terrific examples and resources related to contextualized learning and its power to improve outcomes for students. Guest lectures. No, we learn from each other, and having employers or having even students who have graduated or are in careers or in professions come back and speak to students as a guest lecturer in a class is a terrific program strategy that can be used. We also have to ensure that faculty and staff, educators, have professional development, and they themselves have the knowledge and skills to be able to integrate career-related content into their teaching. Formal agreements, memorandums of understanding with other service providers perhaps with a career development center in the community, a one-stop career center in the community with employers. Those create really powerful relationships in the transferring of resources. Job shadowing, having students be able to shadow and kind of watch what goes on in a particular career or particular industry is an important way for students to learn about that particular position and occupation and to take that learning and assess their own interests and their own abilities. And then finally, career clubs. We know that group learning and sharing of information in small groups like we're doing here in online community is a really important way for some students to learn. And so offering those forums within your setting is certainly a promising practice. This is a quote that just struck me as I was collecting resources for this microgroup several months ago. I came across this Washington Post op-ed piece, and the data that this was in this article was powerful, and I didn't have an opportunity to include it all, but this attests to the importance of authentic learning. Employer survey estimates that nearly 600,000 jobs go unfilled each year because of a lack of skilled labor. And the article, the op-ed piece, goes on to suggest that apprenticeship programs have a huge impact on addressing these skills. So again, the authentic learning, the opportunities for students to be in real-world settings, peer mentoring programs with employers, inviting employers into the classroom and the learning environment are all important ways to further students' goals. So when we think about factors that may influence career planning, one of the things certainly is access to information and opportunities to learn. If students don't have content, and if their faculty and their educators don't have content, they're not going to be able to learn. So as much as we can to integrate this content into the experiences of students is important. Also, we know that labor market trends certainly influence the nature of career development. Transferable skills, students may come into an adult education setting with a certain set of skills that really hold promise for their transfer to new industries and new careers, and it's important as educators for us to consider how those skills can be transferred. Student interests and preferences have to be a key consideration in the career planning processes that go on. And then finally, student personal conditions. I think about students with disabilities and the various manifestations of those disabilities. Some students have functional limitations as a result of disability, which would preclude potentially preclude their opportunities in particular professions. And so understanding the personal factors or personal characteristics of students is one factor that can influence career planning. And here are some individual or learner-focused strategies, and we'll be talking about many of these during the month, but I wanted to give you an overview. Importantly, it's critical to understand students' strengths and interests. What do they want to do? That's where the self-determination, self-empowerment of career planning comes in. We want to build on student experiences as much as possible. And regardless if a student has had work or employment experience, they've had life experience. And in career planning, we need to consider those life experiences and how they may impact or affect career planning. It's important to build partnerships with guidance offices on campus, career centers. I mentioned the one-stop centers funded by the US Department of Labor that are in communities. Establish relationships with them. Have an open house that focuses on career and invite those folks into the open house in an informal way. Learning about first-time communications. You know, this is important for students. You know, many students don't have experience with interacting with employers or businesses or industries. So things like writing a resume, writing a cover letter, doing cold calls are all critical strategies and for student learning. It's also important for students to conduct research. You know, they need to know the employer. They need to know the business sector that an employer's in. Also, it's important to prepare students for interviews and then following up with those interviews. What's the etiquette for sending thank you letters, or what is the time span for following up with an interview? Those are all student-focused or learner-focused strategies that could be part of a career development program. We've been reading, and we all know how critical technology is in learning and instruction and as an instructional tool. But think about technology as we can integrate it into career planning. Things like using a Google search for career exploration, looking at chambers of commerce to get to know the industries and the business sector of a community, learning about business and industry councils. You know, are they an opportunity for students to learn about particular careers, or are there contacts for you as an educator to have participation of business industry councils into your own programming? Think about community forums too. You know, many communities have employment fairs and career fairs, or particular industries do. So using the computer to learn about those opportunities is important. Also, using computer to look at economic development forums and even economic trends. And certainly LinkedIn and other social media is an important technology-based resource that can be used in career development. But also career development could use technology for students to learn about personal skills. There are many, many career interest inventories and exploration tools out there. Career cruising is just one of them. And during the course of the month, we'll be learning about some of those other technology-based tools that could be used. As I was preparing for this webinar, I came across another event that was happening on the link website through another community, and it's a series of 6 YouTube videos on career planning, and it was terrific. It had local and state and national panelists talking about career development and career programming, and I think that's an important resource for us as we move on, and I wanted to encourage you to visit this URL and learn more about that work and consider how it could be integrated into the work we do over the next month. So let's keep our community going. I hope that you use webinars like this that are archived. Maybe invite a group of your colleagues around and view the webinar and talk about it, use it as a tool and a resource to have a discussion about some of the things that you have heard during the webinar, about some of the strategies you can implement. I also hope that over the next month you'll participate in our many discussion threads. Please share your experiences, share resources. We learn from each other, and that's what an online community can do. And I'm very excited to learn from you and have the opportunities, both real-time and online, that we're going to have in the month of January. So thank you so much for participating in this webinar, and thank you in advance for participating in the many events that we're going to be having. I put my contact information down here, and I look forward to having conversations with you both in real time and online. So thank you again, and look forward to our work together.